and the people that previously lived there already did flood control because the house that got built behind us started flooding there. And 2 houses at the time, so they dumped a bunch of money in. So now when we have a big torrential rainstorm, my kids can basically sit on into the lazy river. Like this. It was warm, they could do it. Like in the summer, they really wanted to go out there and go lazy river.
Everyone's like, all right, we're ready, jump in.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the across the street.
Elbows fly.
Spread out a
I
little
mean,
bit.
there are 2 storm drains in front of my house where I was
Very
I
helpful.
just went out there and cleaned them like I always do.
But there's
My
nothing
daughter should ask
happening.
this meet, so while this was happening, we were hoping we saw the curve was
And there were
clogged over
many
the
more
thing,
village
or
staff this
water,
year than I was
or something couldn't keep
I was
up.
kind of expecting.
I'm bringing them all back.
Directors, like,
I just called something
2 or 3
copacetic the
other.
other day.
Oh,
That's that one.
And it was like,
Is there any, there's
and the
nothing
ladies
happening.
there were a couple
And
of
I'm
kids
constructing it.
and I was like, all
there's
right,
nothing.
guys,
Like I thought.
focus
I
on.
know, what did they say? When are they extending?
Let's learn about it.
When did
Yeah.
you get the extension?
January 15th.
So,
They get to go now until
good stuff. We have a lot of,
summer.
we have a lot of.
Like 6 months extension.
camp list
That's why I was bringing that stuff up. Like they have an extension for a long time. It's I think it's all like this coming August.
Yeah, I think so. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, so there'll be a nice hole in the ground for a while. So they're not gonna be able to do anything until the stuff done. You'll see it March or April.
every time Karen says they've had it. It's a lot. I know that's obviously a lot.
From this last.
I mean, ours literally, the sump pump was, the joint became unattached, so it was,
Inside the house?
the part going out. So the only part that was getting out was what had enough power to like shoot through the separation.
Through the
And then
gap.
part was coming out and just going right back in the thing. And then it would try to shoot it out, and then some would come out and go in a circle. So it was just like slowly making its way out of the sump pump. I mean, it's all tile down there. So
I know.
It's still annoying to come home to. Annoying to come home to. Not even a
I
question.
had no idea. That was
That was Thursday night, how bad it was here.
so unusual.
Yeah, monsoon in no time.
Monsoon.
Wolf Road was shut down with the
Yeah,
police right in
was
front of
it?
HAC. And
But the Springdale park was working.
it was working. I was looking at it. It was full. It was
Oh,
great.
you saw
Yeah.
it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. It was nice.
the new retention.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
I meant to drive by.
filled up pretty
Glad
good.
to hear
I
that.
went there at 11 o'clock that night and it was just sitting there.
Oh,
It's got it.
okay.
Yeah.
It
great.
drained out quick too. It's great.
We had a couple residents that say it's
I'm so bad at eclipse. I want to.
so it's kind of cool. Okay. He's not coming. All right. We're at 7 o'clock.
He told me last night.
All right. Okay. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the January 12th, 2026 meeting of the Village of Western Springs Village Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes and especially to honor the individuals who serve and protect our community, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And Clerk Timick, may we have the first roll call of 2026, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Bacon.
Here.
Trustee Chen.
Here.
Trustee Fink. Trustee Lewis.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Naraki.
Here.
All present except for Trustee Fink.
All right, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is that of public comment. So if you would like to address the board, if you can please join us at the podium, please.
Basically this way?
Please, yes?
Please use the microphone.
Oh, it's right there, and it's on. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mario Varela. I'm a resident. Oh,
Yeah, there you go. We have a camera.
got it. My name is, hello, everyone. My name is Mario Varela, and I'm a resident of Western Springs. I'm here with my neighbor immediately to the south of me, Ed Bogacki, right? Ed Bogacki. We live on Wolf Road, right by 58th and Wolf.
Okay.
And unfortunately, on Thursday, I was affected, and also my neighbor to the north of me, who's not here right now, by the monsoon that we had. And the sewer came into my house, sewage and all, like a fountain. Same with my neighbor to the north. Ed and his family didn't get affected this time, but they have been in the past. 5 months ago, July 25th. It was a Friday. I was coming from a business trip. I travel a lot for work on a Friday after a week long. And sure enough, that same day we had a monsoon too that did the same thing. So I had to file a claim on my insurance, got my basement fixed, only to have it damaged again on Thursday. So we are part of the LaGrange Highlands Sanitary District. I recognize that we're not part of the Western Springs Sanitary. I don't know why, I don't know how that works. And so I called the LaGrange Highlands Sanitary. They came out, and the regulator, I've met him in the past, told me, well, maybe there's something wrong with your sewer. But anyway, let me take a look. So he picked up the two manhole lids north of me and south of me on the same side of the sidewalk. We're on the west side. The north one, north of me, was running clear. The one south of me was backed up. So he admitted that to me. He called a water jet truck, those huge trucks, and he jetted his main sewer. And as soon as that happened, the standing water and sewage in my basement receded. But the damage was done already. So I asked him, does the LaGrange Highlands Sanitary District have a subsidy, a fund, something that can help residents with this kind of stuff? No, we don't. And I've called before, back in August, I talked to one of your public works representatives, and she told me because we're in LaGrange Highlands Sanitary District, we don't qualify or we're not eligible. And so I find ourselves, I think we are between a rock and a hard place because we can apply for the Western Springs subsidy or whatever program it is that you call it, and they don't have one either. And then he told me, well, you may have to call Cook County, and Cook County never answers, unfortunately. So I'm here basically appealing to the village to see if there's something that can be done, because we're still residents, we still pay taxes, and we can't do anything about this, the main sewer. Added to that, obviously, we had the snow and ice pack very early on, and a lot of the leaves were not picked up, and there's still a lot of leaves covering some of the storm sewer lids and so forth. So basically, that's why I'm here today, kind of appealing to the board to see if there's something that could be done, because I can't live like that. I assure you, I'm starting to suffer from PTSD. Every time I hear a rumble of thunder or I watch the news, I start sweating bullets. And so that's really why I'm here, and Ed was kind enough to come with me for moral support. But anyway, that's really what I wanted to say. I know this may not be in the agenda today, but I was wondering, can it be added to the agenda?
We appreciate hearing from you,
What
and
can
we're
we
really
do?
sorry about that backup. That sounds like quite a mess. So I think Manager Bear was going to say something.
Sure, and I'll ask Director Super to also chime in, but just initially, if LaGrange Highlands indicated that there was a blockage in their main, you may want to inquire with them about filing a claim with their, through their insurance. That's typically what we would do. We would ask our resident to file a claim if it was our sanitary line that caused the issue. But I'll also ask Director Super to maybe give a little bit of background on kind of where you're at. Our program would not necessarily be a good fit for you just because of your service coming from LaGrange Highlands, but we could certainly meet with you to kind of talk through some of the things you might want to think about talking to them about. That blockage being cleared, that's important so that you don't have that back up again. And then filing a claim with them for reimbursement for your damages is also advisable. But Director Super, do you have something you'd like to add, or would you like to speak with them separately?
Yeah, actually, it might be, because we might get into a bit of a technical conversation a little bit. I could step out and we can kind of get into the specific conversations about maybe how your sanitary sewer might be configured or set up. That might be actually be the easiest approach, I think.
Thank you. Can you come to the podium just so that our recording can pick up your comments? Thank you.
I was going to say that I also experienced the same thing you did. I had an event in the summer, and then the same thing happened in our basement on Thursday. So you're not alone. It does happen.
What happened,
Can you hold the mic up?
I'm sorry, what happened last week has happened many times in the past. And it's not only sanitary, and I'm not sure how the sanitary and/or storm are linked together, if they are, but I've lived in my house for almost 30 years on Wolf. And I don't know if somebody here remembers when, but approximately 15, 20 years ago, Wolf Road between 55th and Plainfield was, excuse me, redone. And I'm not sure if that's the county or who was responsible for it, but we never, ever, ever, and nor did any of our neighbors get water in our basements. And it was when they cut Wolf Road used to be crowned in the middle, and there were swales on either side, and the water just drained into the swales. When they redid it, they pitched the road towards the west, which is where our houses are, and all the water it now pitches. Our driveways look like a river when it rains, and all the water is just directed right at our house. So I don't know, again, we're looking for help. If it's not Western Springs, do we go to the county? Do we go to the Highlands? Across the street from us is Highlands, we're Western Springs. But there has to be some solution to it. I'm sorry to say this, but somebody engineered it wrong, because obviously everyone's getting flooded on our side of the street, and it has been for the last 15 or whenever they redid Wolf Road. So it's a pretty big issue. I didn't get water this time. I've gotten it in the past. I've gotten it several times, and it's been very expensive to take care of. I probably should have come, when I had it in the past, but this time my wife was nervous. The water was rising. We have window wells on the one side, and it was coming up. Thankfully, it stopped and it didn't come in, but Mario and several other of our neighbors did get it. So I don't know where we go to, or.
So the situation you're describing does have quite a few different agencies involved. The roadway is a county road, and that issue is something we may be able to get a conversation with the county scheduled with you. Our Director of Engineering isn't here this evening, but Director Super is our Municipal Services Director, and he can kind of get the information from you and then maybe set up a time for our engineers to talk to you as well.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Great. Again, sorry for I know it's a mess. I've had a flooded basement too, but not as much as you have, so.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah, no, thank you for.
I am a dog walker, and the snow that we had recently, on almost every block, 3 or 4 houses were not sidewalk cleaned, and it was very dangerous. I'm thinking of the kids coming home from school, the mailmen, the delivery men, and of course, dog walkers. When people go away, they have the money to hire someone to shovel their walk. I don't care what they do with their driveway, that's their issue. I suppose they should clear for the mailman. But I am 80, and I have a bad knee, and I fell. Luckily, it wasn't anything that I couldn't sustain. But part of the reason I fell was there was a truck parked across the sidewalk, and I was trying to get to the street because the sidewalk wasn't shoveled either. And people that are having renovations should have their workmen or someone shovel their walk. And we have rules not to block sidewalks with cars or vehicles, but nobody enforces anything. Do we have an ordinance saying you need to shovel your sidewalk in a respectable amount of time? I mean, it shouldn't be a hazard to walk. We're supposedly the safest town in America, but I dispute that. And I also wonder why a variance was given to 2 houses across from each other on Linden Avenue, and there are construction vehicles on both sides. It narrows our street to, I don't know how the garbage people get by, but I don't know if a fire truck could get by. I go the opposite way to avoid them, but this has been going on since late October. And I'm just wondering, how did you get 2 variances for houses across the street from each other? I mean, there's going to be plenty of trucks on both sides. There isn't going to be a way to get through. That's my issues.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing those to our attention.
Is there a solution?
I believe so on several of those, though we don't have an ordinance that requires people to clear their sidewalk. We do send out a lot of reminders to folks.
Doesn't seem to bother anybody.
Well, we can also assist if you have an area that you think needs attention. You can let us know, and we will try to assist you with that.
Well, I only walk on Linden and Clausen and Harvey, so I could name a number of houses every time it snows if you want my constant. I mean, I think there should be an enforcement officer that makes sure people clear their sidewalk. It just seems like a common, necessary safety thing. I mean, you've got kids coming home from school. We've got mailmen and delivery men. It's just so rude and unkind. And it doesn't seem to matter, so it needs to be a fine of some sort to keep people. Once it costs them more with a fine than it is to get it shoveled, they'll shovel.
Well,
Money talks.
that piece is a policy decision, so I can't address that right now. But in terms of vehicles parking across the sidewalk, you're right. We do have an ordinance that requires the sidewalk
Okay.
to have no vehicle. So if you let us know when that happens, we can ask the police department to enforce that. We can also follow up with the folks that are under construction. In fact, if you'd like to leave your address with Director Vallone in the back there, Director Vallone and her staff handle permitting, and they can follow up with the contractors to see if maybe we
Well,
can
they have nowhere
get
to-
parking on one side of the street only, or something like
There's nowhere to
that.
park. I mean, there's so many. I mean, because there are major renovations being done to both houses.
Okay, well, let us take a look at what the projects are, and maybe we can reach out to the homeowners or to the contractors themselves to talk about the parking situation.
Can I have a direct line?
Sure. Director Vallone,
Director
Director
Vallone.
Vallone will
Oh,
talk with
I
you.
will
Thank
become
you
a
so
very
much.
close friend or enemy. I'm not sure which, but anyway.
Thank you for coming.
We appreciate you coming. And the way that you're describing that with that parking on both sides and how narrow it is, I'm really glad you're bringing that to our attention.
I've faced the same issue on certain streets as well. I think reminders to be mindful is a great thing, and
Does it work?
right, we do our best, right?
Just on my street alone, there are 3 to 4 houses that did not shovel during the big snowstorm. It was also true on Clausen, and it was also true on Harvey. And so I have to be extremely. I thought I was done. There were 3 to 4 houses on Linden that didn't shovel, 3 to 4 houses on Clausen, just on the one little block, the 40s, 39s. And the same was true of Harvey. I shouldn't have to be in danger just taking my dog for a walk.
Yep.
Anyway.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see you. Sure.
All right. I think that is it for public comments. All right. Okay, moving on then in our agenda, we'll have the meeting minutes from our December 15th meeting later. Any issues or concerns with those? Nope. All right. Very good. Then we will move into our committee reports, beginning with General Government. Trustee Chen.
Oh, no report tonight.
All right. And then the Finance Committee, Trustee Martin.
No report tonight.
All right, moving along. Planning and Zoning Committee report, Trustee Fink is absent, so Trustee Avakian?
Yes, thank you. For discussion only, we're going to talk about the Village of Western Springs Community Development Department text amendments. Basically, there's a bunch of things, and Heather's in the hallway, but she can jump in if she needs to,
Casey's going to relieve
that
her
are
and
very
come back.
often requested that are not major, and we're trying to make it so that we don't have to go through the process of everything for little things. For example, older garages that used to have, the new house has to have certain setbacks, but an old garage from 1890 or whatever, to get the variance to keep the garage where it is, stuff like that. Keeping an existing wall, so you don't have to make your house make a funny shape, just to make it look uniform, like just kind of, I don't want to say cosmetic because they are, jobs, but nothing important, nothing crazy, not important, but nothing monstrous. So we're just trying to open the discussion and let people know that we're trying to make it less of a hassle and easier for the village, for the residents, and for contractors to do some minor corrections. Anything else? you think?
I apologize for having to
I
step
know.
out for a moment.
I
I
was
missed the
just-
start. I apologize. We do have a couple things on the dais for you. If we might just run through those, and then I can keep going with providing some information. So first on the dais, you have a table that just kind of lists the general categories of the text amendments to follow along with. You also have a packet that has a couple of Post-it notes on the side of it. It also has some red writing on it. That is the proposed markup. It is long, so we printed it so you weren't needing to scroll on your iPads. Additionally, as indicated in the memo, we've brought a couple of ordinances. We brought one that would be Title 10, so that is the Development Control Ordinance, also known as our zoning code. And then also Title 6. So that should be in front of you in a packet. If anyone's missing a specific item, let me know, and I can have Kelsey grab you one. So as Amy was describing, staff is proposing a number of text amendments that have either arisen by things that we've seen during reviews that are confusing or need clarification, things that have been brought up by some of our residents or businesses, and additionally, any items that have historically been an issue related to clarity in communicating to our residents, our construction contractors, and generally with our staff. So Kelsey's going to run through in detail a few of these, and there's also some additional items that we can talk through as well. Amy, do you have anything else you want to add before Kelsey runs through her summary? Okay.
Go for it.
Hey, perfect. Thank you so much. So Heather provided some great background information. I just want to point out that our current development control ordinance is from 1993 and has been updated here and there throughout the years. This is one of the more extensive overhauls that we've seen in more recent years. Okay, so here's where we are in the process. The Plan Commission reviewed this on October 28th, and the Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed this on November 18th, and we are now at the Village Board workshop for discussion before final consideration by the Village Board. So at the October 28th, 2025 meeting, the Plan Commission recommended approval with modifications of the request. The proposed amendments in red line and ordinance that are before you today have already been updated to reflect those modifications. The Plan Commission recommendation and the item summary report from that meeting are also included in tonight's agenda packet. On November 18th, the Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed the application and recommended approval of the request with the Plan Commission recommendation related to general development, residential, and commercial amendments. As it related to the medical cannabis amendments, the Planning and Zoning Committee directed staff to bring forward for discussion the option of establishing a medical cannabis overlay district, which was discussed by the Plan Commission, along with the alternative that was recommended by staff following that Plan Commission meeting. So we'll talk a little bit more about those differences and what the Plan Commission saw and what staff brought before Planning and Zoning and you guys today. Okay, to talk about the residential amendments very quickly. Excuse me, sorry. So we are proposing amendments to the variation, non-conforming structures, and accessory structures for the DCO. So the community development authorized to approve minor variations through an administrative process adjustment. There are a number of small variation requests that are related to setbacks of detached garages, 6-foot front porches, maximum building coverage, and gross floor area, and those have been common requests that the Board of Zoning Appeals has seen. So in order to kind of streamline those requests, as we see continuous requests from residents and issues with meeting certain sections of the code, that's when Heather and I know to kind of look at the code a little bit more closely to make sure our code meets our residents' needs. So we would be proposing that these minor variation requests related to those categories on the screen would be approved by the Director of Community Development through the administrative adjustment process. The applicant would be required to submit an application fee, and they would still require notice to neighbors within 150 feet, which is similar to that of a variation process. However, the variation process requires the public hearing before the Board of Zoning Appeals and requires notice to neighbors within 250 feet. So they're a little bit similar, but this administrative adjustment process is a truncated, slimmed down process of the variation process. So as long as the request or the application meets the standards for the replacement, which are on the screen, and we don't have any negative feedback or concerns from the neighboring properties, that is something that the Director of Community Development could approve. If the request exceeds what is listed on the screen, or if a neighbor does have concerns about an administrative adjustment, that's when we would say, okay, we're sorry, this would have to go through the variation process and go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, which would require at a public hearing, would require notice.
Just a quick note, if you'll look, these are like 100 square feet adjustments, and it's an existing garage that we're not making them move it 4 feet, we're making them fix it where it is. Like, these are not major changes. Sorry, go ahead.
Correct, yes. And then there would be those standards that there wouldn't be negative impact to neighboring properties that they would have to meet in order to get this request. Okay, so staying on the residential tone, accessory structures, we're proposing minor amendments to the accessory use table and requirements, which accessory structures include AC units, patios, garages, but this section of the code we're updating in relation to rear yard AC location, chimney protection, and fire escapes. And that's really more to be in line with proper building codes and how much a chimney can encroach, and where we see AC units on a property today. So those are some minor changes to the accessory use table. We are also proposing requirements for beekeeping on single-family residential lots. This came at the result of a homeowner in town that is very interested in beekeeping and really kind of expressed interest in going through a text amendment process, but just didn't, want to go through the whole 3-month process with fees. So as part of this application, we thought this would be a good time to introduce this. So this would only be applicable to single-family residential lots. There would only be allowed 2 colonies with 1 apiary. There would be notice on all lot lines. The neighboring property owners would have to approve, and there would have to be registration and insurance done. But they would need to be registered with the state and have all necessary inspections. And this would go through the typical building permit process. Okay, we have some amendments proposed for residential corner lots. So currently, the development control ordinance requires that all rear yards in single-family districts maintain a 35% maximum coverage district. So that's in addition to the 50% lot coverage requirement that we have for the whole lot. So as you can see on the screen, that brown area is a typical, or that brown area is on a typical interior lot. And you can see that rear yard runs the full length of that rear lot line. If you look to the corner lot on the right, you can see that its rear yard, which is orange, is being cut off by the corner side yard. So there's less rear yard area for a corner or reverse corner lot than there is interior lot. So we found that a lot of these properties, when they are looking to do a detached garage, are kind of hitting that 35% maximum threshold because of how limited their area is. So as part of this request, staff is proposing to propose that rear or corner properties didn't have to meet that rear yard coverage requirement. We took it to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission recommended a modification that 35% coverage requirement is still in place, but it would exclude detached garages from that overall requirement. And so that has been updated we updated that from the Plan Commission and included that. And again, as I said, they would still need to meet the 50% maximum lot coverage and all other coverage requirements. Okay, and on to the next. Slide 8. So this may kind of be familiar to you all because this is something that comes up when we have plan development requests. So our current code requires that plan developments are large-scale development and have a minimum area of 5 acres. As you can see on the table on the screen, the only recent development that was able to meet that criteria was Timber Trails, the old golf course. We have granted exceptions or relief to Heritage Springs, 17 Ogden Avenue, and most recently Heritage Crossing in 2025 for those reductions in the 5-acre requirement. So in order to kind of be consistent with the available land in the village and what we've seen with past plan developments, we're proposing to just remove references to large scale and the minimum 5-acre. Okay, so recently, well maybe not recently, almost a year ago, back in February, the village approved the updated downtown market study done by Tesca. And that looked at uses in the commercial district. It looked at really in our downtown. And so in light of those recommendations and those findings in those report, staff is proposing a downtown pedestrian overlay district, which is the core area, and it would be defined as the 2 blocks between Burlington Avenue, or on Burlington Avenue between Wolf Road and Grand, and then the 2 blocks of Hillgrove between Johnson Ave and Lawn Ave, zone C1, and then there's a singular, you can kind of see on the screen that pink property at Wolf, that's Foxford, that is our MXD district. We're proposing that within this district there is an overlay that focuses on a retail core, and that certain uses such as a dental office or a gym would be required to have a retail storefront of 15 feet at the front window if they're located on the first floor. If they're located on the second floor or below ground, they wouldn't need to meet this requirement.
Sorry, just to clarify, so again, the overlay district is not just retail, it's generally a downtown district that is highlighting both retail but also experiential services and items that really provide a more pedestrian feel downtown. What is proposed in these blocks that are shown on the screen, including the MXD, would be uses, as you can see in the table. If you actually use your packet that has the red on it, Kelsey has tabbed to you the commercial use table. You can see in there a variety of uses that are proposed that would make that district a more pedestrian feel, right? Additional retail, experiential dining, also some service uses, and then uses that are not as quite in keeping with that would still be a permitted use pending the approval of a conditional use permit. So medical office, as Kelsey indicated, that would be something that would require a conditional use. They would come before the Plan Commission and show that their impacts would not adversely impact our downtown area and that they would have appropriate facilities that would not create negative externalities on our pedestrian design downtown. It would also encourage uses that are compatible with one another to encourage, again, that shopping in between areas as well, so that you're doing multiple trips in one area and not coming once and leaving for a single item.
Sorry, just clarification on the table. The table has 3 columns. You're talking about column DT?
What is shown on the screen is our C1 district, and then within the column, you're looking for the items that have a P with a star. So the P with a star would be, it would be permitted, it would have additional restrictions within the downtown area that would be more in keeping with the downtown. So a good example of that, if you want to go ahead and flip to, this is a long table. If you want to go ahead and flip to the medical dental, so that would be if you flip first page of the table, bottom of that one is medical dental offices on the first floor. You see it says P with a star. So areas outside of the overlay district, so the red that you see without any teal, that would be a permitted first floor use. Areas with the teal would require additional review.
Again, so then to further clarify, the teal is the district that you're talking about.
That's
so when
correct.
you say this slide is labeled the overlay district, is the overlay specifically referring to the teal and all the reds? I'm sorry, I'm not following the key.
Sure. So all the red outline you see on the screen, all of it, that is our C1 district.
Okay.
The pink that you see, which is a little bit obscured there at the corner of Wolf and Burlington, that is our MXD. So those outlines just show the underlying zoning. The overlay district you see in the teal hatch, that would be the areas that have some additional restrictions to ensure that we have a more pedestrian-oriented downtown. So again, there's still areas within what people would consider our downtown that would be permitted to have medical office as an example, but the real core where we have the bulk of our existing retailers and dining establishments, we would be looking to encourage opportunities for other retail experiential services and dining establishments to be in that area as opposed to having additional, for example, medical office there.
And what about existing businesses?
Sure. So if approved, existing businesses would not be immediately impacted. This would be if a new business was going to locate there. Then that new business would need to comply with the overlay district.
Thank you.
Or the existing business decided to expand in such a way that completely changed their existing use. That might require additional review.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a great segue into our next slide because we were already looking at the use table. So as you can see on the screen on the left, the kind of white box with the text, that is what our code looks like today. So each business district in our code has a list of allowable or permitted and conditional uses. They're all in separate chapters. Sometimes if you go to a certain business district, it will just say whatever's allowed in the previous district. So it's not very reader friendly for the public and staff as well. So we're looking to kind of modernize our use table, update it so it looks on the right so you can easily see what's allowed in which district. And we also kind of modernize the terms that we use. As we said, our DCO is a little bit dated, so a lot of the references to uses just don't really apply to what we actually see being used. You know, those entertainment uses that Heather pointed out, we don't really have anything in our code that defines that. So this table is to kind of simplify that and make it easier for staff, residents alike, and we think it's a huge improvement. Okay, also as the result of the downtown market study, kind of looked at this a little bit, but we did ask TESCA to explore some research on food trucks and look at other municipalities and what they have done, because we have received a handful of requests for food trucks in town, whether that just be from our businesses or from homeowners or from our facilities looking to do events. So we are proposing amendments related to mobile food vendors with operations, considering local demand, zoning issues, public health. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have about the specifics of it. The requirements would lay out if it's on a residential property, if it's on a commercial or institutional use property, whether it's in the right of way, places limits on insurance, as well as it actually kind of lays out, when staff needs an application submitted in order for it to review. Right now, we kind of look at these things as a case-by-case basis and work with, our residents and our public. But this would actually streamline it for everyone involved. Okay, now moving on to medical cannabis. If you just give me one moment. Okay, in 2014, the state of Illinois adopted the Medical Cannabis Act, which required all non-home rule municipalities to allow for medical cannabis retail establishments within their zoning regulations. The village at the time did explore this and discuss it, and it was decided that the village would place a pause on finalizing where we would allow medical cannabis and how we would address this requirement. In 2019, the state legalized recreational cannabis sales and granted all existing 55 medical-only dispensaries early approval for recreational sales. Since 2019, all of those medical-only dispensaries now offer adult use sales. There have been no new medical licenses that have been issued since 2019, and there are no medical-only dispensaries located in the state of Illinois. All of them took advantage of getting that recreational license and combined their operations. So with respect to recreational cannabis, the village is allowed to opt in or opt out, unlike medical cannabis where we do have to have some zoning regulations listed. Within the 2014 Medical Act, it did require location restrictions for medical uses or for medical cannabis uses. So it would 1,000 feet within the property line of an existing public or private preschool, elementary or secondary school, daycares, and any child care facility. In the 2019 Act, actually eliminated those mandatory distance requirement for all medical cannabis dispensaries and leaves it up to the individual municipalities. So what we have presented today, the first, what appeared to the Plan Commission was a medical overlay district. That was at the southwest corner of 55th and Wolf Road, and that's a C2 property, so it's for C2 properties within that area. They would be allowed a conditional use permit, so they would have to go and seek approval for that and meet the standards in the code to operate a medical dispensary at that property. There were performance requirements, performance standard requirements, exterior standard requirements as well. Following that Plan Commission meeting, which the Plan Commission did recommend approval of that overlay for the 55th and Wolf Road, staff kind of talked internally, and we felt that it would be clearer and more streamlined for not only staff, the public, and residents to kind of allow medical cannabis as a conditional use, so still not changing that from the original, in the C1, C2, and office districts. We would still maintain those same buffer requirements that we proposed to the Plan Commission, which I actually have in front of me.
And you also have in front of you as well. So you should likely have a 2-page colorful handout. Up in the top left corner, it says map 1 on page 1 and map 2 on page 2. So map 1 shows all of the C1, C2, and O zoned office zone property in the village. What you can also see too on the first map, map 1, is a number of yellow hatched areas, yellow-orange. Those areas are either schools, daycare facilities, or religious facilities. In the village, religious facilities are permitted as an accessory use daycare facility as of right. So that is map 1. That's showing you, again, the zoning of our commercial areas, and then again, what we were referring to as sensitive areas, or the schools, the residential facilities, and the religious institutions. If you flip to the second page labeled map 2, that illustrates what Kelsey was indicating was staff's recommendation after the Plan Commission meeting, which would be to allow it in these districts with buffering requirements from the uses such as schools, daycare facilities, and religious institutions, again, as they can have childcare as of right. So what you see on the map in the dark circles, that's a 1,000-foot buffer from schools, again, in keeping with the original 2014 recommendation. What you see in the lighter blue is a 500-foot buffer from what could be daycare facilities and our religious institutions. So what you see that is not covered by either of those two buffers would be the remaining areas that if a medical cannabis license was issued in the state of Illinois again, and they were looking at Western Springs, this would be the potential areas they could locate. Again, no medical-only licenses have been issued in the state since the adoption of the legislation that went into effect January 1 of 2020 for recreational cannabis.
And I'll just chime in real quick. We reduced some of the light blue circles to make more opportunity. Like, you're close to a lot of schools, obviously, you can see, and any church can be a preschool. They have a right to be a preschool. They might not all be, but they are allowed to be. They reduced it to try to make some opportunity downtown, should this impossible medical cannabis license ever show up. I mean, why we're even talking about it, because we have to, but it's really, really low probability. My only argument was, I don't understand if it's so unlikely why we're even allowing it to be so close to a school. And then it was brought to my attention that if you don't do this, the only place is over in the bottom red square.
Next to Ridgewood?
Right.
Right.
So if you did the 1,000-foot everywhere would be not allowed except for right here. And again, the probability of this ever happening is very minimum, but that's why they tried to reduce it so that there was another choice.
Attorney Skratsky, would you like to talk a little bit about the law and how we have to have some opportunities, more than one opportunity, if it possibly came into Western Springs?
Well, it's medical cannabis is distinct from recreational cannabis, and that recreational cannabis was allowed to be opted out by municipalities. So we don't have dispensaries or dispensary licenses in town pursuant to our referendum. But medical cannabis is considered a different class of use. It's a use that you can't outright ban. And so you can only regulate it to the extent that there still allows some possibility, theoretical or otherwise, of it being used. So even though medical cannabis on its own, without the recreational part, is not profitable, and that's why you don't see standalone medical anymore, because you see people obtaining medical grade or prescription cannabis, if it's prescribed, from dispensaries. Which is still something that we're not going to have.
I just want everyone to recognize that that's why they made it smaller. So it's
Yes,
close
correct.
to some
So that there
schools,
would
so there
only
was
be one. Yep.
choices. And that the fact that if anyone's going to do this, which they probably won't, that they had a choice of where to go. And there's also rules, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're medical cannabis, you can't have like a pot leaf. Like it has to be, it's sort of like their signage has to be kind of, is discreet the right word?
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. If you turn back again to your packet that is red, there should be another flag here that says medical cannabis. If you would like to flip there, so as Kelsey indicated, there are, again, locational restrictions being proposed, the buffering as we indicated. There is also exterior appearance has to be compatible with the other structures in the neighborhood to ensure that there's no blight or any other indication of advertisement. Performance standard, they must provide evidence that it conforms to noise, vibration, dust, odor, heat, glare, and that they comply with the state of Illinois. Exterior lighting, they would be required to have exterior lighting at all entrances. Again, this is more in keeping with the original requirements from the state. And then no paraphernalia can be seen from outside. So those would be the additional performance standards being proposed along with the requirement of it to go through the conditional use process to show that it had a proper location.
This does seem highly administrative catch-up for us, based on something that's very old and now become outdated. I think my impression of the process and staff's recommendation of just how they went through providing these, opportunities is a solid process. I wouldn't say we need to think about this a lot more, to your point. Probability is low, it's an outdated business model, and we're just playing catch-up. That's the way I took it away, so I have no issues with this.
Yeah, we are playing catch up, so we can't, it's not that we can ban it, but we can put it in certain areas, correct? So we can
Yes.
only limit it to downtown if we wanted to, right? And not at 55th and Wolf? Is that how I'm understanding that from
The restrictions you
conversations?
can use have to do with schools or preschools.
Sure, but I'm just saying, what I understood was that you can't ban it for me in the neighborhood, but you can put it in certain areas, is what I'm saying.
You
So-
have to provide a zone.
Correct,
That's what we're
so
talking about.
downtown could be that zone, and we could exclude 55th and Wolf if we wanted to.
We could, but what I'm going to argue there is that now is us making a judgment about where we would prefer it, where I actually like the protocol that staff came up with to say, what did the state say originally? How far does it need to be from schools, et cetera? And let's do a reasonable overlay of our town, and this is what falls out.
Yeah, they reduced it to make it not just be Ridgewood.
Right.
And that's where I'm going with this, right? Because Ridgewood has kids, and Ryan Pastor was already this with the smoke shop that went in, that was contested by neighbors that they didn't have a chance to get voted on either. And we'll say, how do we deter the smoke and smell? I, as a resident and trustee, live right there, and I already know that I'm gonna have many people asking me questions about this specific thing and saying there could be a medical marijuana store down the street from where their kids are.
Yeah.
They ride past there all the time on their bikes, my kids included in that. And then they'll look over and go, oh, what's that? And parents are gonna go, I don't want my kids seeing that. Put it downtown where everybody gets to see it. Because in this scenario, it's kind of off the beaten path, we'll say, right? And all the traffic's gonna come over here. We have a downtown district for that. There's already F45, it's packed with people and things in there as it is. If we put this in, people are coming through here, and extra traffic, which we're all gonna have with the new subdivision that's going in there, with the 29 townhouses in there, with the traffic going on. So my point being, as a resident and trustee, and thinking that if we can put it downtown where there's quote-unquote traffic, and this is, likelihood is low, but things happen and things go on. why wouldn't it be down here where you'd have more foot traffic and more adults and things like that going through it and seeing it instead of in a more neighborhood area? Downtown is downtown. We have all our businesses down there and things.
I'm not taking anything away from your comment. I want to rely more on for me, I'm going to rely more on the process of coming up with the map that they did, which I think sort of insulates us as a village from saying that we're not really we're implementing state law. That's what we're doing. And
Yeah,
that-
but we have some opportunity though
We
to
do.
work within those guidelines is
We
where
do.
I'm coming from.
We do, I gotcha.
How has this been able to not have any determination for this long?
There's never been, as far as I know, there's never been specific interest.
So the state didn't follow up with us to say you have to implement this, and no one has approached us to make us implement anything. So again, I'm putting this under the administrative catch-up. Let's check the box, but I appreciate the comments.
I mean, it's a possibility, as Heather said, it's a possibility that we don't institute anything. But in that case, then what happens is you're stuck with only, right, correct, the 55th and Wolf location.
So what it would mean, it would open up additional areas. So
Yeah.
again, the state left it up to the municipalities related to spacing requirements for medical. So they currently don't have any spacing requirements. So if we are going to be in keeping with the original 2014 Act, these spacing requirements as proposed would fit that. The state, again though, eliminated them. So if there was some interest today, and someone were looking at any of our commercial spaces without our spacing requirements, they could locate there.
They can locate anywhere within.
Anywhere.
Anywhere that meets the minimum requirements of the state.
Well,
Which does not include spacing requirements from sensitive uses. They left that up to the municipalities to implement.
But Director Vallone, does that then broadens where it could be
Correct.
located, not restricts it to just one place? It would
Correct, yeah,
broaden
this
it.
map gets bigger.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
the blue
Just to
map.
The blue gets smaller.
I should say smaller.
Right, right.
That's right.
Sorry.
I like having the restrictions. I mean, I appreciate why they reduced some restrictions to make it be not only one choice, but I also kind of like that there are restrictions from preschools. Schools. Should it ever happen, which I know
Right.
probably won't.
Okay.
And this is discussion only, right?
This is just discussion tonight, that's right.
Things to
So
think
following
about.
our normal process, we brought it for discussion, and it would move to the 26th with any recommendations from tonight, with the draft ordinance that is in front of you as well.
Al and I agreed in our committee with this map,
Okay.
our committee.
Backing up a little bit, what are the personal services? Some examples of those, where they would have to have the 15 feet retail space. Are financial advisors?
Sorry, just to clarify, the reason I had jumped in is Senior Planner Faywell did misspeak. The uses that are restricted with the P with the star, those are ones that if they are looking to locate on the first floor, they would need a conditional use. The restriction related to having any of those uses with additional retail in it, that is not something that's being proposed currently in front of you. Again, the items, anything that you see with a P in front of it, that's a permitted use. Anything you see with a C is a conditional use. Anything with a P with the asterisk, that's our overlay district, which would make that first floor use seek a conditional use if it was in the overlay district. So again, one of the examples is medical dental office on the first floor. That would require a conditional use within the proposed overlay district if approved. So some additional uses that our code currently doesn't cover that are proposed in here with the overlay district. If you want to start on the first page of the table, generally we have we're retaining our banks and financial institutions on the first floor. We also would be retaining our bakery and coffee shop, which are currently actually defined and are being proposed to define. Food stores, additionally, we have our offices above floor. We would also have microbreweries. We would have professional offices, again, above ground. Outdoor eating facilities would be a permitted use, as it is currently. So personal services, those would be ones that, if they were not an accessory to another retail use, which you see at the back of the top of the table, would be required.
Heather, what are those personal
what
services?
I
Is that a
think.
barber
That
shop?
was
Is that
the
our hair
question.
salons? Yeah.
Sure, so actually, if you are flipping to, back to the front of your packet, that's where our definitions are. If we go under our personal services,
Page 19.
go ahead.
A business where services are offered directly to customers, including but not limited to beauty services, hair cutting and styling, spa services, dry cleaning, and tailoring.
So I think your question about financial consulting is that that's not considered a personal service.
Right, as indicated in the table, financial institutions are called out separately from personal services.
I think there's, like currently, there's like financial planners, that's not a bank.
Right, so that would fall under, give me a moment here.
Is that an office use?
I believe we have that under, yes, we have that under our office use.
And I know we discussed like a physical therapy. What does that fall under?
So that would be, that would fall more along personal services and medical office, so that one would be a conditional use. Again, in those 3 blocks. The other portions of downtown, though, that would all still be those would still remain permitted uses. But in the downtown overlay district, those areas are being slated to open up to ensure that we continue to have that downtown pedestrian feel with entertainment uses, our retail uses, our eating establishments, things of that nature.
Right, so we're hoping to drive more of that kind of business. It's a pretty small number of blocks. Again, existing businesses, they're fine until such time they would decide to move or sell or something. And this is comparable or similar to some of our neighboring communities, correct?
That is correct. Some of our neighbors have similar provisions where they are highlighting their retailers, their establishments, their eating establishments, and their entertainment uses in their core downtown areas, much like our core few blocks here that are being proposed, to have these restrictions to ensure that opportunities are available for those uses.
And if something were to, well, part of it too is that some of these are conditional use. So it's not to say that they might not, that they're completely banned, but they would require conditional use, for example. Also, I mean, we can never imagine everything that can possibly come up in the future someday, right? And I would imagine that we address those as they come along. I think personal services seems, I appreciate the definition, but I also think that that could be used in a lot of different ways, right? I'm thinking, for example, the business that approached us, that I think there is one in Naperville, that was for a barber shop that serves alcohol. Like, I don't know what that is under this scenario. The personal services sounds like haircutting, but it also is more retail and that there is alcohol. Like, how would you navigate something like that?
Well, so actually the reason why, if you go back to the start of the table, you'll see at the top of the table that there is some categories that are accessible or compatible uses up to a certain square footage. So what we're trying to get at with that is we don't really have single occupants anymore, right? Or we don't have businesses that just do one thing. A lot of our businesses do more than one thing. So like the hair cutting, for example, they had the serving alcohol and they also had hair cutting. So what this is doing is allowing an ability for a store to have maybe more than one thing in it. So maybe, for example, the store has both maybe an indoor children's play space in the back. They also have a retail component or a cafe in the front, right? That would, this language allows us to have more than one thing in there, but under the same umbrella of the business. It allows us to be more flexible and attract some of the uses that we would like to see that our code doesn't currently address.
I definitely appreciate all the thought that's gone into this, and I really like the idea of trying to encourage and attract the kind of businesses and the kind of just foot traffic that you're talking about. I think we hear that a lot from our residents, and I know that came out during the market study. So I find these to be some, some interesting ideas, and I think it could help with that core, really, again, it's like 3 blocks, that I think that could be
Where does
quite
the,
appealing. Yep.
Colonial Barber Shop, where does that?
So the Colonial Barbershop is actually west of the tower, so that is not in the overlay district.
And what about the dry cleaner near the water plant here?
That one is in the overlay district.
It
So
is
that-
or is not, sorry?
Is. The
Is,
dry
okay.
cleaner that is just around the corner from this building, over by the water treatment plant, that one would be in the overlay district.
Yep, I see.
And so the village could give them a permit to operate if somebody wanted to do that in the future, but it would have to be approved by the board, not just automatically allowed.
Exactly, right. Not to continue to use this as an example, but the reason that we have some of our office uses as conditional uses, not only is to ensure we have opportunities for our retailers, our entertainment, and our experiential businesses, is also they have a different need for some of our physical spaces like parking. Those businesses are likely having people come there longer than our parking requirements, or have a different need for parking requirements than our downtown is currently designed for. Our downtown really is designed both for commuters, but then also for a more pedestrian-oriented downtown where you're parking and then you're going to multiple shops. When we have a lot of uses that have a higher parking demand than that we can offer, that just creates an imbalance, especially between some of the businesses that have different uses that are next to one another. So this would help kind of ensure we have compatible businesses who are all fitting in with some of the physical constraints of our downtown, as well as creating that district, that more pedestrian, multiple shopping experience.
Director Valone, can you clarify, if a business currently exists, it would not have to go through the conditional use process? So for a dry cleaner that's already there and already present, it's not unless that use is disused for a period of time and then someone in the future wants to move back into that spot to reopen a dry cleaner that they would need to go through the approval process.
That's correct. But alternatively, as Senior Planner Faywell mentioned though too, hypothetically, if that dry cleaner decided they wanted to then occupy the entire building, that would require a conditional use, right? That would be an expansion of their use that we would need to review and ensure fit in with the downtown.
And if they sold their business, could that use continue under the new ownership, or is that they would go through the process?
Oh, you're
at
saying
that
like
point?
if
They
the
would
dry
come through the
cleaner
process.
sold it to
Good.
still be a dry
Yeah.
cleaner? Yeah, that's a good question.
A new ownership would require coming through the process.
Okay.
I guess the enticement is if you were a permitted use in that area, you wouldn't have to go through the process. Like if you were a retail shop or something, that is supposed to be the attraction, right?
No, I appreciate all the effort.
Yeah.
I just, a little concerned about telling people who they can rent their
Oh.
space to and what it can be used for, but that happens all the time, so.
I think my impression is this is a great way for us also to be clearer to our constituents outside of the town. Like we do a lot of conditional stuff anyway, but I think this is a little bit more clear of what we're trying to accomplish. Coming off of the market study and putting it into codifying it gives the outside world a better sense, I think, of where we're trying to go. So with President Rudolph, I applaud all the effort. I think the clarity is been achieved, at least improved clarity for mind-numbing ordinances.
And I would also just comment, and I know we're not all the way done, but on the overall DCO and the markup and the changes, I know this has been a tremendous amount of effort, and it's really going, it's just a huge leap forward, and I really commend the effort. Just, it's easier to understand, it's gonna make it, I think, easier to do business with and be a part of Western Springs. I also think the ones for the residents and some of the standard variances that are requested, that saves everybody time, right? That saves the residents time from what they've had to do. It saves the builders and developers and remodelers time, and it saves time here in the overall processes. So I think these are just terrific changes, and I know it's taken a lot of work. I think this is good discussion, and there's a lot of things I think we still need to all, take a look at. So kind of where are we in terms of tonight, in terms of what all you are walking through? Because I know we've had a lot of good discussion.
We have covered all the proposed amendments in Kelsey's presentation. You have a draft ordinance in front of you. We did bring it to tonight. So it would depend on what the board's level of comfort is, if they want to bring it to the next meeting for consideration, or if they want to bring it to the following meeting for consideration. That would be up to your discretion and discussion.
And I did want to interject just quickly as a reminder, there are 2 ordinances on the dais related to this amendment. So one's the DCO amendments, which has this entire red line in it. But one is to Chapter 6 of the Village Code, the police regulations. And that's just because that's where we regulate animals. So it's just a couple sentences that define what a honeybee is and state that a honeybee is allowed, provided it meets the DCO. So.
It's a restaurant, right?
No retail, no sales allowed.
The beekeeping is interesting, and just the efforts for that. The resident who came to the meeting had done a tremendous amount of research and had been in contact with, isn't there like a state association?
The DuPage County Beekeepers Association.
Okay, and had really researched a lot of different areas in terms of their, the regulatory requirements. And so I think that's a great idea. I think having the beekeeping available and having it also be clear and having, clear guidance to the residents is great. So it sounds though, let's specifically talk, I think you need direction from the board in terms of kind of next steps. So I think there's 2 issues. I think there's the medical cannabis location is an issue. And then is there any objection to the pedestrian overlay kind of as defined? Does anybody have any? No? Okay. All right. Again, I think this is a huge leap forward. And I think Karen or Trustee Martin, I like what you said about this. It provides clarity in terms of what we're trying to kind of create in the downtown business district. On the medical cannabis point, Trustee Naraki, you would like to see there only be one location and have it be the downtown?
I'd like to have residents have a chance to review this too. I didn't even know this was in today's agenda packet, and things. I mean, I read through it, but I didn't know we were gonna have this big of a conversation about it today, I'll say.
Okay.
And things, so I think residents would like the opportunity to actually read through this themselves.
Again, we do have to make sure we're clear on the probability of this.
Understood. I mean, that's part of communicating to residents that,
Right.
that's part of it.
Can we, in terms of a path forward, can we carve that out? And can we address the rest of it, or do you need to have it all?
We can carve it out and handle it separately.
That would be my suggestion.
Sure.
Trustee Avakian, from your committee.
Oh, I need to propose
No,
it.
I'm just saying, but from your committee
Oh.
and from the guidance from your committee, are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
If we pull
For
that
sure.
out? Okay.
So I apologize, just to clarify, so we'll bring the rest of the amendments through as indicated in the draft ordinance tonight to your next meeting on the 26th for action.
Yes.
And then we will bring back for discussion the medical cannabis.
We'll just keep it on as a separate item for the next board meeting so that they can have additional discussion, and if there are residents here, they can certainly talk about it at that meeting. But we'll just carve that out as a separate piece, if that
Okay.
works for the
Not
board.
intended for action, right, at the next meeting? Or it could
That's
be?
up to the board.
Oh, got it.
So I think what we'll do is we'll put it on under old business, and the board can decide if you want to take action or not, but it will be there for discussion. It won't be on the omnibus. If we have clear direction on the other pieces, we can also include that on the omnibus for the next.
I think the rest of it, I think we're clear on. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll just keep that one section out as a separate item for action, and then the board can decide whether they want to act or not act, or just discuss.
Okay.
That's up to them.
Okay?
Yeah,
All
that makes
right.
sense.
Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you
right.
for clarifying.
Again, thank you very much for all of the effort on this, and thanks for lots of good discussion and points.
Okay, next up.
Yeah, where are
Right?
we?
I'm still Al, I think, but.
You are still Al, you're right.
Yeah, okay. So next up, we are recommending a service agreement with Tesca as I think we've all heard they've helped us before in the past. Our comprehensive plan is from 2003. And as we've all discussed on multiple occasions and had surveys and things, we're trying to update that. We had proposals out from a bunch of people, RFPs for who wanted to help us, and we reviewed them with staff, and we think Teska's the right person. So for action tonight, we're proposing.
Just for discussion.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
for discussion.
Just for discussion. But we like what staff told us, and they seem to be a nice team we've worked with before. They've put a lot of work in it, so if there's any questions there.
And again, on the dais is the draft ordinance, as indicated in the memo. It may be turned perpendicular to your chairs towards the front. It's called the Resolution Approving and Authorizing Execution of a Professional Services Agreement. Looks like you've all found it up there. This is our standard resolution and a vendor contract that we've used previously. I can let Attorney Scrotty speak a little bit more to the actual draft ordinance and contract. But as Amy indicated, we had 9 responses, and out of 9, we interviewed 4. Our top 4 were then scored on our scoring criteria in the RFP, and then we selected Teska as the firm who scored the highest on that criteria.
I just want to note that President Rudolph, as well as former trustee, Plan Commission Chair Jim Tyrrell, also sat in on those interviews. It was really nice opportunity to have the presenters meet not just our staff, but also some of our policy setting officials. So it was a nice process. Thank you.
So out of that, again, we're that smaller selection committee, we're recommending Teska. If you are amenable to both the response that was included in your packet from Teska and the draft ordinance and contract, this could be moved to the January 26th meeting for consideration.
To remind us of the overall timing for the work that they would do, when it would begin and when is the anticipated end date?
Absolutely. So Teska indicated that they could get started as quickly as possible this year. It looked like they could start as early as February if we're ready to begin that process. And it's between a 12-month to 14-month process.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Other questions or discussion about that?
And that ends my report.
All right. Very good. I think we can take it for action on the 26th.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Trustee Avakian. All right. Moving on to Public Works and Water Committee report. Trustee Lewis.
Thank you, President Rudolph. Our committee reviewed several vendor contract offerings and renewals at our meeting last week as we get ready for a very busy 2026. First up is a contract with Wiccan Water Technologies to replace some reverse osmosis membranes at the water treatment plant for an amount not to exceed $261,945.50. The performance of the existing membranes has declined over the past 3 years, and they need to be replaced. Our committee recommends the contract be approved at our next village board meeting. Any questions? Next, our committee recommends approval of a water treatment chemical supply and delivery contract for 2026 with Hawkins, Inc. for an amount up to $325,000. The chemicals are needed for finished water production and plant maintenance. The Public Works and Water Committee also recommends approval at the next village board meeting of a 2026 contract for catch basin and inlet cleaning services with National Power Rotting Corporation. And we've budgeted $200,000 for that work. Any questions about that? Next, our committee recommends a bid waiver and approval of a vendor contract with Custom Filtration Solutions to purchase cartridge filters needed at the water plant. Custom Filtration Solutions is a sole source provider of these cartridges, which we found to be the best performing cartridges after testing several options last year. The vendor contract will be for an amount not to exceed $40,000, and we hope to have it on the agenda later this month. Item E, our committee recommends approval tonight of a resolution allowing the village to forego a surety bond when our employees need to work on state-maintained right-of-ways. A previous resolution expired several years ago, And this resolution makes clear the village will take on liability for work village contractors and staff perform in state right-of-ways. This issue came up recently when we applied for a permit to remove a lead water service from a house along Ogden Avenue. So this item is on the omnibus for action tonight, if there aren't any objections. And item F, the Public Works and Water Committee also recommends renewal tonight of 3 one-year contracts for 2026. These are items we budget for each year. The first is a contract with Murphy Construction Services for sidewalk, curb, and gutter replacement for an amount not to exceed $110,000. This is the first renewal of a contract which we awarded last year. The second is another contract with Murphy Construction for sidewalk shaving for an amount not to exceed $110,000. And this will be the second renewal of that contract, which we awarded in 2024. And lastly, a contract with National Power Rodding for sewer televising and cleaning for an amount not to exceed $105,000. And this will be the third renewal of that contract. And these items are on the omnibus for action tonight, if no one objects. And are there any questions? If not, that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. And yes, we will take those on the omnibus. Thank you. All right, Properties and Rec, Trustee Naraki.
Thanks, President Rudolph. I have 4 items to discuss tonight, 3 for discussion only, and 1 on the omnibus. The first item is the amendment to the Southeast Association for Special Parks and Recreation Joint Agreement. The village is a member of the Southeast Association for Special Parks and Recreation, CSPAR, which provides essential special services to members in need in recreational programs. Currently, CSPAR utilizes the most recent equalized assessed evaluation of each community to set the annual special recreation levy amounts. The Cook County EAV reports are almost always delayed, meaning that the levy amounts are not always communicated to communities with fiscal year budgets in a timely manner. So we are looking to leverage the, for example, when preparing the fiscal year 2027 budget and levy, CSPAR would use the 2024 EAV report rather than wait for the 2025 report. So we can get that ahead of time in our budget so that we're not waiting behind. Did I explain that enough, Deputy Village Manager Bernanke?
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Naraki. Yeah, just in short, just to over communicate what you said, the Cook County EAV reports just don't get to CSPAR in time for them to let us know what the Western Springs levy would be for the next year. So they're looking to look in the rears for those reports on an ongoing fashion. And because we're part of CSPAR, we have access to that special rec levy, which allows us to levy those funds to be part of CSPAR. And it takes 2/3 vote from all of the voting members. There's 13 other communities, 14 including us. All of their village boards, 2/3 of those boards have to pass this as well. So it's in front of all of those boards in January and February, and we will report back on what happens after you all make a decision, and we report that back to CSPAR.
Anybody have any questions on that one? No? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is surplus declaration. We do this, I think, every meeting at this point now. So this month we have 1 5-drawer file cabinet and 1 2-drawer file cabinet in storage, so that will be surplus out. The next agenda item is the vendor contract with Advanced Tree Care, Inc. for the 2026 tree inventory. So, on December 4th, the village issued a request for bids for services related to tree inventory updates. On December 22nd, the village received a total of 2 bids. The submittals are in your packet tonight. And staff performed a reference check of the lowest bidder, Advanced Tree Care, and received positive feedback. All references stated they would be willing to rehire the contractor for future projects. Based on the feedback received, staff is confident in Advanced Tree Care's qualifications to complete this project. The budget is $29,000. Anybody have any questions? Okay. And the last item is, just like Trustee Lewis, the contract renewals. Attached for the board's review in your packet and approval are renewal letters for the 2026 contract year Landscape Maintenance Services, Berry Landscape Management LLC, in an amount of $44,020 for monthly maintenance work and a total budgeted amount of $91,779 for seasonal planting, holiday decorative work, and additional requested services. This will be the second renewal for the contract, which was awarded by the Village Board on April 22nd, 2024. Next is the HVAC Maintenance Services, the YMI Group, Inc., for an amount not to exceed $17,995. This will be the second renewal for this contract, which was awarded by the Village Board on April 22nd, 2024. And finally, the Tree Trimming Services, Winkler Tree and Lawn Care, in an amount not to exceed $115,000. This will be the third renewal for the agreement, which was first awarded by the Village Board on February 23rd, 2023. And these will be on the omnibus tonight.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That concludes my report for tonight.
All right, wrapping up with public health and safety, Trustee Avakian, back to you.
Thank you, President Rudolph. It says there's a presentation tonight. The presentation is actually going to be on the 26th, but a summary on our Safe Routes to School. In 2024, the village was awarded a Safe Routes to School grant for $75,000 to develop a village-wide school travel plan. Epstein was chosen as the village consultant and worked over the past year with staff, school districts, and the community. The plan is substantially complete, and Epstein will be at the next meeting to give us all the presentation. And the plan provides solutions to improve walking and biking opportunities and awareness for students. It includes short-term, long-term improvements, policy recommendations for staff and the village board to consider. Improvements include sidewalk installation, reconfigurations, intersection safety improvements, bike safety considerations, right-of-way, and drop-off improvements. So we'll see that presentation.
Great.
Also, just for discussion only, the Greenest Region Compact Resolution. The Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus works with municipalities to provide sustainable communities. The Greenest Region Compact, refers to as the GRC, is comprised of 49 high-level goals that fall into 10 categories. These goals have been reached by consensus and are meant to foster positive impacts in communities. Municipalities adopt the GRC by a form of resolution agreeing to work to achieve these goals. To date, 165 communities that have adopted the GRC, and Public Health and Safety Committee is recommending the village consider adoption as well. There's no costs to do this, and there's nothing required to do this. You don't get in trouble if you don't do it. Really, it's just kind of a goal and an idea of, if we want to be green and help our community do better in that area, here are some things we should aim to do. So it's really just a nice guideline.
Seems very in keeping with our beekeeping resident.
Yeah. But I mean, there's no cost, there's no pressure, and you don't get in trouble for not doing
Right.
it. It's just adopting, these are great ideas.
Right.
There are many categories with a lot of things that have been done by others, so it really does provide a really nice kind of roadmap. And, we can see what has worked well with other communities. I think the goals contained within those are really things that we should be looking at. And many we already have been, but it helps us, again, with kind of more of a framework, really codify some of this. And there's some really, really good information in there, too. So I think it's great that we are doing this.
Any questions there?
All right.
Then that concludes my report.
All right, very good. Now we will move to consideration of and action on the agenda items, and we'll begin with the omnibus. The Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions, such as awards of contract, appointment, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All of the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there any such request this evening? All right, hearing none. Trustee Chen.
Yes, thank you. President Rudolph, I move that the following ordinances, resolutions, and motions as contained on the meeting agenda for January 12, 2026 be adopted and/or approved under an omnibus vote. Item A, a motion to approve the December 15, 2025 meeting minutes as read. Item B, resolution number 26-2971, a resolution allowing the Village of Western Springs to forego a surety bond for permit work to be performed by employees of the village on state-maintained rights-of-way, including emergency work on broken water mains or sewers for a 2-year period. Item C, a motion to approve 1-year contract renewals with the following vendors: Murphy Construction, Inc. for sidewalk shaving and sidewalk, curb, and gutter replacement, National Power Rodding for sewer televising and cleaning, Berry Landscaping Management, LLC for landscape maintenance services, the YMI Group, Inc. for HVAC maintenance services, and Winkler Tree and Lawn Care for tree trimming services.
Thank you very much. May we have a second, please?
I will second that.
All right. Thank you. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Rudolph. Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink is absent. Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
The ordinances, resolutions, and motions contained in the agenda of January 26, 2026 are hereby adopted or approved.
Thank you very much. Do we have any new or old business? Manager Bear? Yeah. Okay, moving on to reports, monthly financial report, Trustee Martin. All right. So for my report, I want to just call out last Thursday night, we had quite a weather event with the high volume of rain that night on top of what has already been a very eventful season with the early snow and the unfinished leaf removal from November. I know everybody experienced this, and we heard from residents tonight who were greatly impacted, but we had many flooded areas. Village Manager Bear, she mobilized kind of a on-the-fly emergency response with our Public Works, fire, police, and much of our staff were out helping unclog the street inlets. There were also a lot of residents out. I mean, it really was a pretty incredible effort. It was also interesting to see the rain stopped around 10 o'clock, and around 11 o'clock, Springdale, the new basin, stormwater detention, was working. It was holding, you could see all the water in there. I know it didn't solve it for everybody. We have some residents in the area that did experience some issues. We don't think that they were tied directly to that, but it seems like it really worked as intended. I mean, not that I'm gonna jump up and down yet, but it seemed like it was really working. So that was, I guess, gratifying to see after all the work that went into that, all of the inconvenience that like the parks and the public all experienced with that. We really put it to a test. But mostly I really want to call out the overall team effort. It really, really made a difference. And I think we had, I don't know how many people were out. But also with that too, we have had a handful of follow-up comments from residents about the overall leaf pickup, and we know that that did cause some of the issues with some of the inlets and the clogging there. But I'll let Manager Bear address that further in terms of kind of where we're at with that and just some of the next steps that you already had underway even prior to that weather event.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to echo the thanks to all of the village residents and all of the staff from all the departments that came out. I would guess we had upwards of 45 to 50 staff members out, as well as lots of volunteers, as you mentioned, because of the heavy rainfall that resulted in that street flooding that we experienced this past week. So as you mentioned, some of the flooding was due to the leaves and debris that were still in the roadway, and they were blocking storm drains, and some occurred because the sewers just became overwhelmed and couldn't take on the velocity of water that was coming into each area. Early this morning, we had the village contractor, LRS, out to begin street sweeping. We think that is a big step in the right direction, getting as much of the streets cleared in that capacity. There were still, and it will take LRS a couple of days to get through the whole town, but they were out very early this morning and saw them through the late afternoon. So I believe that is usually a 2-day process to get through town.
And that's just along the curb?
That's just, they'll go through and clean the streets. So they'll clean the curb line and each lane of the street.
Oh, they do the
curb
middle
to
part
curb.
too.
Yeah. It'll be curb to curb, yeah.
I saw them today.
Did you?
Yes, I
Yeah?
did.
Okay.
They were out there this morning coming down the street.
Yes, so unfortunately, the street sweeper is not equipped to clear significant volume of leaves or debris that might be in the gutters. So if there are piles of leaves or debris still stacked in the curb, they will have to go around that. But anything that's sort of small and ancillary will get picked up and kind of crunched up by the street sweeper. So we are asking residents not to put anything more into the street, and we will do our best to clear any remaining larger debris. But at this point, we hope that the street sweeper will make a big difference for most areas. Village staff met today and we reviewed the event. We discussed opportunities to improve our pre-storm actions as well as how we manage during an emergency event. I think it was a really good meeting. We had Director Super, Director Koza, as well as Chief of Police, Chief of Fire, to talk about their emergency responses. We had a number of our other staff there who assisted during the event. Director Super's staff gave really good feedback on the things they saw, as they are typically the people out handling these storms. And I think that the difference of having full support from other departments was huge, and it made a big difference in the ability to address some of the hot spots in town very quickly. And we were very fortunate that the rain did stop at a reasonable duration to allow everything to sort of catch up as the evening went on. We did have a couple of areas. Unfortunately, Trustee Chen's neighborhood experienced some sewer backup, and Director Super may want to comment on that when I'm done. But those are things that were sort of isolated into certain areas. And overall, we did not have anyone with report to us with the Springdale and the Ridgewood neighborhoods with flooding in their homes. So the Springdale Storm Basin did perform as we anticipated it would. We did have some erosion. The Park District let us know there was some erosion up near the playground area because the erosion fencing wasn't put up quite the way it should have been. The contractor just had not maintained it. But we'll rectify that, and the contractor will be back out to figure that out this week. And then as part of our plan of action, we are definitely looking for feedback from our neighboring communities to see how they handled their response and how they handled their leaf collection. We have had a lot of residents inquiring as to how we will manage leaves in 2026. I think you'll see staff come back with some recommendations through the Public Works and Water Committee in order to have some real discussion about how we can improve that leaf collection process. Some years it goes like clockwork, and other years we experience really difficult situations, as we did this year with the early snow in 2025. 2021, we had a very similar thing happen with the late falling of leaves and the early falling of snow. Sometimes those things are a really rough mix. So we will continue to review and to discuss, and we will bring something back through Public Works and Water to talk that through. And then the last thing I have, if I may, we have some news about emissions testing. Senator Gloria Hilton and her staff have worked with the village staff to host another mobile emissions testing event at the Recreation Center parking lot on January 26th through the 30th. It's a week-long mobile emissions site from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. To be eligible to participate, you must have already been notified that your vehicle is due for its emissions testing, but there is no appointment necessary, so you can just drive up and take part in the mobile emissions testing right here in Western Springs, rather than drive several towns over for your emissions test. Back in October of 2025, the Western Springs location was used for the first time as a mobile emissions test location at the recommendation of Senator Gloria Hilton. That week-long event resulted in a total of 383 vehicles that were tested, and this was only our first time around in October. 172 of those vehicles were registered in Western Springs, which is about 45% of the total, and the rest were folks that came to the mobile testing station from 37 different municipalities in the Chicagoland area. And I hope they stopped at Casey's and bought
I
no,
I can't wait to go. I just got my postcard.
I just got mine too.
Do you just pull up through the parking
You just
lot
pull
by the
up,
rec
right,
center?
it's right at the, like you were dropping off styrofoam, exactly. You just pull right in.
I literally
exactly.
got my thing. I was like,
Yes, I know, and we hope to have more throughout the year, but we just don't know. So when we know, we'll let you know. It was communicated to us that the October event was the most successful mobile testing event they had in 2025. And we very much appreciate Senator Gloria Hilton's office contacting us with that opportunity. It was very well received by those who participated.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Attorney Szymanski.
No report tonight.
All right, very good. Then I think we're at the end of our agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good. We're adjourned.
Yay.
Thank you, everybody, for good discussion. Good first meeting of the year.